Hey everybody, welcome to another ActionFeatures.net Toy Talk review. Today we're taking a look at a vintage set of Ghostbusters figures. Now I know we said we were going to finish off those Diamond Select Ghostbusters, and we're still going to do that. But we had so much fun doing those couple of reviews of Diamond Select that we've done so far, and talking about Ghostbusters, and the excitement that we all have for Ghostbusters, that we decided that it'd be fun to take a look at some older Ghostbusters items too. Maybe do a Diamond Select review, and then follow it up with a vintage review, or maybe do a Diamond Select review and then a cartoon episode review, something like that, just to keep kind of the love that we have for Ghostbusters and the excitement that we have going for it rolling into the videos. We used to do this with Motu Classics too, where all three of us were really excited about it, and we really had a lot of fun doing those reviews. So trying to find something that three of us are equally excited about sometimes goes all over the place, because Blaze will be into something, and I'll be into something, or Keaton will be into something. But we all three have always really, really loved Ghostbusters. So this is one that I think all three of us can contribute and be excited about. So when we talked about what we wanted to start with as far as the vintage ones go, or the Mattel ones, whatever we want to do, we all immediately said, got to do the first wave of Kenner figures. Those are top-tier Ghostbuster figures. For years, these four were the only Ghostbusters figures you could really have. And of the Kenner figures, these were the four to get. So that was the set for sure. This is the one we're going to do. So that's what you're watching now, is our Kenner Real Ghostbusters Series 1 review. These figures were released at the tail end of 1986 into 1987. I don't have a carded one to show you. Usually we'll show a carded example of something we're going to review. But for a lot of these older reviews, I just don't have carded sets, especially when it comes to vintage toys. I never kept my stuff carded as a kid, so although I love that original card back art of a lot of stuff, and I think the vintage packaging is kind of a lost art form, I don't have a lot of carded vintage stuff. I really like to have my stuff displayed loose. So, forgive me for not having a carded pick. You can go on Google and look up a picture of carded Ghostbusters, and you'll see that just fine. This is more telling you what the figures are about, and if it's worth going back and picking up the set, or, reminiscing about these figures. They were released on, I think there was 3 card back styles. One was a full purple card back, and then they changed the lettering, like it was white to yellow, and then there was like a different color behind the figures. So the card back went through some changes for this first wave, but they're all basically the same. It's a large purple card back. It's got an image of the character, like a drawing of the character in the back. Shows more figures from the line and all that stuff. They retailed, if I remember right, for about $5 to $6 a piece, which is crazy cheap nowadays. It was sort of a more expensive one when you had considered the G.I. Joes were like $2 or $3 back then. But these were larger figures, and you got a lot of cool stuff with them, and they were Ghostbusters. And Ghostbusters was crazy, crazy popular back in 1986. And if you were going to buy one, you were going to buy all four. So you were looking at a $20 to $25 investment. And nowadays, that's crazy cheap. That's one figure. All 4 figures have unique sculpts, obviously. You've got Egon, that's the taller one. Ray had a little bit of weight on him. Winston was a bit, stockier and more muscular. And Peter Venkman was more your everyman sculpt. But even inside, the heights are all different, and the body types are all different. But even certain things on the uniform were different. And you'll be able to tell this more in the pictures that I'll post online. But for example, we look at Venkman up close here, and I'm trying to make it so he's focused. You can see that his pockets on his chest have it's almost like mouths, or 2 closed eyes. And on the other figures, they're all different. There's 1 sculpted line on Egon, there's 2 sculpted lines that are just straight dashes on Ray, and then on Winston, he's got, let me get a closer look at him. He's got one that's more close to Venkman, but they're more pushed underneath the straps. And then, the collars are slightly different, where he's unzipped a bit more, his collar's more flared out. Egon has a smaller collar, he's got an actual sculpted zipper. The belts all have different things on them, where Egon's got a pouch up front, and Venkman's got a piece of the belt kind of flapped over. At least I thought that's what that was as a kid. Ray's got a little pouch along the side here. I'm going to bring it in a little bit, so we're going to lose a little bit of those proton streams. But that way you can get a better look at them as I'm talking about them. We'll move their companion ghosts out of the way, too. So that's all unique amongst them. They've each got different styling to their belt. I think that even, let me see something here. Now, they've each got little dots where the belts would loop up. but I don't think they're different amongst them. But you can see that Winston's is almost the same as Venkman's, but Venkman's is off to the side a little. The lacing on the boots is different amongst each figure, where, you know, you've got almost like a one lace on Winston, one stripe down the entire boot on Ray, halfway down on Egon, and then 2 laces on Peter. So it's just something to give variety to these sculptures, because they knew they were going to do just 4 jumpsuits. But this way, it gave variety in the sculpt. So it wasn't just the same suit sculpted again and again and again. Which I thought, even as a kid, I recognized that there were differences between them, and I thought it was really cool, and it was unique and different to each figure. The thing that is different from these from the cartoon is that the collars and the wristbands, they all had different coloring in the cartoon, and on these, they're all just a plain color. There's no painting like the pink collar on Egon or the green collar on Ray you see in the cartoon isn't seen here. And if I'm not mistaken, Peter and Winston usually had undershirts in the cartoon, and they were a dark color. And I don't think Ray and Egon did have undershirts. But they all 4 have undershirts on these figures. They're all white undershirts. And again, there's some differences there, where you see there's no collar, ribbed collar on Ray, but there is one on Peter. So it's just slight differences that really make a figure pop. Not to use a Toy Guru statement, but it pops on your shelf when you have a little difference between them. And there's also a difference here in the boots, in that, you know, it almost looks like Egon's is at the top of his boot, Ray's is tucked into his boot, Winston's is coming over his boot a little bit, and Peter's is coming down onto his ankles, which Peter always had his untucked in the movies. But little slight differences, and the sculpts themselves are really, really nice. You got a nice body fit. You know, they're proportioned to themselves. The stances are all kind of, not Ray stances, but the stances are all vanilla, so you don't have this crazy pose popping out where he's got one leg bent forward. They stand well on their own. I've got them on stands now. But the sculpting on these was really nice, and the heads are very accurate to the cartoon. They're Kennerized, obviously. They're toys. They're not going to be a dead-on cartoon sculpt, but there's the attitude and the look and the shape of the face that's there. And even to this day, I think that they're really, really good sculpts. All right, let's talk about the articulation. We'll get that out of the way, too. They're all 5 points of articulation. You've got, you know, just the standard for back then of a Star Wars figure or something like that, where you've got the hips that just swivel up and down, and then the shoulders also just swivel, and then the head swivels back and forth. So not a ton of articulation, but we didn't need that back then. Nowadays, these figures would be called like dinosaurs or nostalgic figures or retros or something, but I never really noticed that I couldn't move their elbows or knees. It didn't matter to me. These were just really solid figures. Sorry, I was knocking something over. All right, let's talk about accessories a little bit here. Each figure has a proton pack that posts into their back. And this is a good idea, of a good way for Kenner to have done this. I really liked it as a kid that there weren't straps attached to the proton pack, because I feel like those would have probably broken easily over time. A lot of the He-Man figures from the vintage line, had that armor that you'd pull the straps through and you'd clip it or something like that. And one could say that you could probably have done something like that for this, but a lot of times those straps would break after a while with play. And these have to be taken off a lot. With the He-Man figures, you can put that armor on and just kind of leave it on, and it was only when you were playing and taking them off that you would put wear on those straps. These have to be taken off to get inside Ecto 1 or Ecto 2, when you just got them hanging out in the firehouse. So there would be a lot of taking the packs on and off. So they were thinking ahead by leaving the strap pieces as part of the body, and then just having a hole in the back where the proton pack would then post into the hole, makes it so you're not putting so much stress on those little tiny straps. Brilliant idea. Good job on Kenner for doing that. Oh, I forgot to mention that each figure has one sculpted elbow pad as well on the right arm. And Blaze was asking me this the other day, like, why didn't they sculpt it on both arms? I have no idea. That's the arm they're using to hold the proton gun, so maybe they felt like just putting that on there would signify that that's the gun-wielding arm. But in the cartoon, they had elbow pads on both arms. I don't know why they went with just one arm on this, but they did. And Egon and Peter's is a light color, while Ray and Winston have a darker color elbow pad. Just slight differences. Again, it's probably just something that the sculptors and the painters were trying to do to make them different and unique. All right, back to those proton packs. The proton packs are very close to their look in the cartoon. They may not be colored like they are in the cartoon, but they're sculpted very much like they are in the show, where they have the three lighted lenses in there, where the proton packs on the movies have 4. The ones in the cartoon had 3. So you got those 3, and then sculpted wiring, and it's pretty close to the way it looked in the cartoon, the pack itself. The neutrino wand, or proton gun, whatever you want to call it, it is quite a bit different from the cartoon. And I'm going to slowly get one of these off, because it's made to do this sort of action feature thing. It's large, and it's got these 2 clips along the side. The handle comes out of the back, and it's all one piece that goes through the gun, so that you've got then the proton stream coming out, and you spin this, and you're catching a ghost, shooting the wand, or shooting the stream. Would I like nowadays for it to look more like the cartoon? Sure, but as a kid, this was a great feature. Being able to have the proton stream coming out of the gun, so I could point it at a ghost, and catch Slimer, or, have him cross the stream, stuff like that. Back then, they weren't thinking of making removable proton streams like we've got nowadays on the Mattel and the Diamond Select figures. It was just a way to have the stream working and also incorporate an action feature into it, so you could spin it and do something cool. And then these all have these 2, like I said, these 2 handles on the side that slide over the arm, and they clip onto the 2 clips on the back. And the wand is held onto the proton pack by a cord, just a rope that's plugged into the bottom of the proton pack and then into the base of the neutrino wand. Now, the first releases of the figures have the cord coming out of the bottom of the proton pack, whereas later releases have the cord coming out of the bumper of the proton pack. So if you run into these loose and you're wondering why there is such a difference between the 2, that's why, because they did a second release later on, or later releases have this, where they've added this piece into here. And I think even when they showed these as when they used these for the Ecto Glow and maybe the Slimed Heroes, I want to say that they still plugged into the bumper. Alright, so that covers the proton packs, the sculpting. There's not a ton of paint work, because it's an older line, but everything here is clean and nice. Mine might have a couple of paint rubs from, a lot of adventures over the years. Oh, all 4 of the proton streams are unique, too, in color. Ray has orange, Egon has pink, Winston has yellow, and Peter has green. Most of the times, if you find these loose, that's where you're going to watch for your breakage, too, is with the proton packs. The clips can break easily over time from kids playing with them. The proton streams can break off. So that's really, if you're buying a set of these loose, that's the thing to look for, is broken proton packs or mismatched proton packs. That's where kids put the most play into these, and that's the accessory that would get broken or lost the easiest. Alongside the companion ghosts, which can be kind of tough to come by as well, but not as bad as a broken proton pack, since these are kind of hard to break. Each figure included a companion ghost. For Peter, we have the Grabber Ghost. For Winston, we have the Chomper Ghost. For Egon, we have the Gulper Ghost. And for Ray, we have the Rapper Ghost. Now, each one of these companion ghosts can go onto the figure in a certain way. Like, obviously, we turn Egon's head. We can get the the Gulper Ghost over his head. And Winston's Chomper Ghost can chomp onto his arm. And so on and so forth. We got the Grabber and the Rapper. Each of the sculpts is unique. They're not the same ghost painted 4 times, or with the color, obviously, because they do different features. But each one has a really nice, cool, quirky sculpt. It's one of the things about the real Ghostbusters cartoon that was so great, was the design of the ghosts. They were all crazy and unique and odd things, and I think Kenner did a good job of mimicking that in their sculpts. A lot of their ghosts are really cool, and these first 4 companion ghosts especially look like something that came right out of the cartoon. And it was really neat that you got a ghost with each one of them. You didn't have to worry about going and buying more stuff to have the stuff for the Ghostbusters to fight. You got 4 ghosts right off the bat. Cool pack-in. Now, we'll talk about this more at the couch, but I just wanted to say now as to whether it would be worth picking them up nowadays or not. A loose, nice set of Ghostbusters with all the accessories, unbroken, and everything together can set you back $80 to $100 sometimes. And that's kind of pricey, but especially if you loved these toys growing up, if you think they're only $20 a figure, that's what figures cost nowadays. So if you can get each one for around $20 to $25 a piece in nice shape, I'd say it's worth picking them up. Go back and snag them. Of course, at the original price, these were great, but even today, $20 to $25 for a nice, complete Ghostbuster to have on your shelf and remind you of your childhood watching real Ghostbusters, I'd say pick them up. All right, there'll be a full gallery of these guys up at actionfeatures.net. It'll be linked in the info section. But for now, let's take this over to the couch and we'll give our final thoughts on Kenner's original real Ghostbusters. Hey everybody, we're back with the couch portion of the review on the Kenner original Ghostbusters. We're each holding a couple of them here. Well, I'm holding a couple of them. You're holding your favorite. Right? Was Ray your favorite?
Peter's my favorite also.
Ray was your
Ray's
my favorite also.
Peter is my favorite. Ray used to be my favorite.
All right, well, Peter's your favorite.
All the
And
time.
then Peter's my favorite. So Peter was everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
When I was a little kid, Egon was my favorite. And as I got older, Peter became my favorite.
The
They're
whole-
both my favorite. Just like Blaze has two favorites.
The whole time, Peter.
You've always liked Peter the most.
Yeah.
Well, I'm holding Winston and Egon, and you've got Peter, and you've got Ray. Okay, so I've already explained, all the articulation, all that stuff. So now we're just going to give our thoughts on the figures. This is a kind of a unique set of figures in our reviews because I grew up with these, and then when you were used to play with toys, you played with a set of these, which were, was that my set that you played with?
I had my own set.
You had your own
found
set.
one at
That's
your
right.
house.
That's right. So you had a set, and then that set Keaton played with when he still plays with, but then he passed those on to Gracie. And then I passed on my second set and bought another set. So now we have three kind of sets in the house. So you've got a set, Gracie's got some, and I've got my set.
And when did these come out?
1986.
Okay, well.
So 30 years.
The age is off, but you grew up with these. I kind of grew up with the Mattel ones. He grows up with. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry.
In the eye.
You grew up
These
with
are a
diamond
danger to kids everywhere, these proton streams. But it's kind of amazing that 30-year-old figures can hold up like that,
these
though,
are still really great figures.
Yeah, they really are. Like, you were able to get enjoyment out of them, and Keaton's been able to get enjoyment out of them, Gracie's got enjoyment out of them, and they're still holding up. Like, they're still fun.
Mm-hmm.
And even throughout the time when you guys are growing up, you weren't complaining about, like, oh, these elbows don't move.
Yeah.
These knees don't move, Like,
I think it
it's...
honestly makes a better figure because you don't have to worry about all the
Yeah, it all
stuff.
breaking and stuff. And I guess in the opening sequence, I think the sculpts are really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like... what they did for Real Ghostbusters when they created the different colors for each costume? I really like that because it gives each a really distinct look. Same with the figures. And if you wanted a set of Ghostbusters figures, these were the set to have.
Yeah,
Although the other ones are cool. My first set was actually Fright Features. These were kind of tough to come by when I was a kid. And when I was a kid, it was not like you could just go and pick up whatever whenever. There was no eBay.
Yeah.
The only way of getting something if you couldn't find it in the stores was like a yard sale or flea market or something like that. I ended up getting them. I ended up getting the set, sorry. Let me finish that thought real quick. But the first that I actually had was Fright Features.
About you said, like, where they have all different colors.
Yeah.
Ray got a bad color because
He
that's
did.
just the suit.
Yeah, he didn't get anything new. Like, when Janine was handing them out, like, hey, I got the suits. And everybody's like, Egon's like, cool, I got like a grayish blue. And Winston's like, sweet, I got light blue. And Peter's like, yeah, I got brown. And then Ray's like, and I got the same color I already had. That's not really all that fair. Okay, so the figures themselves, these retailed for like $5 or $6 back then, which is great nowadays. I mean, that would be insane to get figures like this for $5 or $6. But that was kind of a more expensive figure line for me as a kid because G.I. Joes were like a thing I bought a lot of, and they were only $3.
Right, like He-Man was around that price too, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah. But you got a lot of stuff with the for the $5 or $6. You got your figure, your proton pack, and you got a ghost with each one of them.
Awesome.
Yeah, and they're really cool. Like the sculpts on them are really neat, and they can clip onto the figures in different ways. So that's neat that you got somebody to fight with your ghost right off the bat.
Yeah. I think Winston's ghost is the best one of them.
Winston's really the chomper?
Yeah.
Really?
I like that one.
I like Egon's the best because it goes over their heads.
Yeah, I agree with.
I think that's pretty cool.
Well,
yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
The one I have the most memory of playing with is I only had like 5 of those.
Yeah, I had a lot of that Peter ghost for some reason. I just kept on getting more and more of that one.
And I had like 3 or 5 of them. I played with it.
Yeah, and it's a good ghost, man. The grabber ghost, it's a cool sculpt. It's got that tongue sticking out. These are all neat, and I love that they're in that clearish colored plastic.
Yeah.
The one thing that I used to be, careful with my figures, but I saw it on a lot of other people's figures, and it's been a lot of the ones that I've picked up over the years, because I picked up extras, is that the proton packs would break really easy.
All mine were broken.
Like all the clips break really easy on the on this thing. If you're just having them for display, they wouldn't break so much, but these were stuff that kids played with back then. And so they were really easy to break those clips and break the proton streams off.
I never really had a problem with the clip. It was more just the beam itself.
The streams broke really easy too, yeah.
What bothered me the most was I was kind of fine with that as a kid because I didn't always want it sticking out. But it would break and there's just this little piece sticking out in all mine. It was just, really
I guess I'm going to take him out. Yeah, that would be kind of frustrating to have that. What do you guys think about the proton one? Because as an adult, I like my proton packs to look.
Yeah.
I like the removable streams and stuff like that. But for a kid, what do you think about the proton streams coming out? Do you like that? Do you think it's cool?
I like it.
You do like it?
But I wish they had some where they came out.
Yeah, well, back when I was a kid, that wasn't as much a possibility as it is now. Like, they do the proton streams with those Diamond Selects, they pop out, they pop in. But you also face a lot of issues where that could break easily, the popping in and out. I've heard a lot of people have problems breaking those proton streams on the new figures. And this is something that, even though I just said you do see them broken a lot, I took care of mine as a kid and they didn't break.
Right.
So it all depends on how rough the kid was with it, if
Yeah.
they're willing to break or not. Yeah, like this guy right here is a little bit rough on him.
Well, actually, he
thought
got
that
his set from me.
He did,
so.
yeah. You did get your second hand. Another thing I mentioned in the early portion of the video, I don't have one to grab right now, that I thought was weird as a kid was some of my friends would have ones that came out of the bottom, and some that would come out of the I'm talking about the cord that holds on to the neutrino one. Some would come out of the bottom, and some came out of the bumper on the back. And whenever I saw that, I would go, that's so weird. They didn't come out of that part. Why is yours different than mine? Now, as an adult, I know it's a variation thing that they did in later releases. They changed it. I don't know why they would change something like that.
I like it this way.
I like it better out of the bottom.
It's more like the movie.
Yeah, the first releases had it out of the bottom. The later releases coming out of the bumper.
It's a good way to get it again.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just weird that they made that decision. I would love to know why they decided that, because they did the same thing, I think, on the Ecto Glow and the Slimed Heroes. I think they both have it coming out of the bumper section, which is kind of weird.
I like how they have different suits colors, but then I like also how they have different stream colors.
Yeah, so you can tell their proton packs apart.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I was talking about that in the beginning sequence of the video. They do a lot of little things on the figures. They knew they were all going to have the same kind of sculpt, but they did little things to make them different, like little differences on the boots, little differences on the zipper areas.
Yeah.
Just kind of neat things to distinguish the sculpts from one another. And I don't know if that's something maybe they had started to do before they knew that they were going to do different colors on the show, because the early tests for the show, they all had the tan colors still. I have no idea.
That first mini thing.
Yeah, that first, pilot, they all had the tan outfits still. So I don't know if they began work on the sculpts for these before they got that or what, but, I mean, if not, they knew that they were going to have different colors, but they also put all these differences on there.
About how they have, different things on them?
Yeah.
They only have one elbow pad.
Yeah, I mentioned that at the beginning part of the review, too. The Blaze was asking me about that the other day, where the cartoon all had them with both elbow pads, but all the figures only have one elbow pad. And it's the arm that they use for the weapon.
I just noticed Ray first has the same color suit, and he's the only one that does not get a walkie-talkie on his belt.
Well, he gets a little pouch along the side. And I don't think these are
yeah.
walkie-talkies. I think they're pouches.
I thought they were.
Well, that might be a walkie-talkie. You might be right. I can never decide when I was a kid if that was just a piece of the belt loop, if it was a walkie-talkie or a pouch or what.
That looked like a pouch on the side.
But yeah, again, it's something different amongst all the figures where they each have something on the belt. And it's like Winston's is straight up, his is turned to the side.
His is like a
I never thought that maybe that was a walkie-talkie, but yeah, I can see what you're saying there. That does look like it might be.
That one's just like a pouch for Egon.
Yeah, that's definitely a pouch on his.
This one's a pouch on
That's a pouch.
But
His
I
has
saw
got-
Peter's as a...
He's got jelly beans in it. His has got spores, molds, and fungus in it. Man, great figure line, though. One that has held up over the years. They ended up reusing these sculpts. There was regular figures, Fright Features.
Super Fright Features.
Well, there was Fright Features, then Screaming Heroes, then Super Fright Features, and then I think it was Power Pack. It was either Power Pack and then Slimed Heroes, or Slimed Heroes then Power Pack, and the last was Ecto Glow. But Slimed Heroes and Ecto Glow all used these same body sculpts, which they knew this was where it was, where everybody wanted this figure release. It is surprising to me, though, that they didn't release them in these same colors ever again after that first wave.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't do the Fright Features with these outfits on, or the Screaming Heroes with these outfits on with new sculpts or
I
something.
think it's the... What are those ones over
Those
there?
are Slimed
The
Heroes.
Slimed Heroes, the Ray's not too far
The Ray
off.
isn't too far off,
And
and
the
neither is the Winston. Yeah, the rest are pretty far off in color, but it was interesting to me as a kid. Like I said, I got the Fright Features first, so those outfits are completely different than they are in the cartoon, but I still wanted Ghostbusters, and that's what the ones we could find at first, until I was able to get the other set later on. But as a kid, you really want the thing you see on the show.
Yeah.
And so having this out of circulation for a while they did different outfits, to me was like, wow, this isn't like other shows where the characters kind of change outfits on the show too. Mm-hmm. This is where you want those guys, how they look in the show, and you can't have that if you're just getting this again and again.
Yeah.
And to this day, these are the only ones you can get from the show, unless you're talking about mini mates or something like that, or those Mego-esque figures. Really, as far as basic action figures, these are what you can get.
Yeah.
Maybe one day Diamond Select will get it. It's in their license apparently to be able to do these again. But even if they never did, I'm not.
No, these are great.
Yeah, I'm never unhappy with these.
Yeah. These
are always going to be great real Ghostbusters figures. They look great from the cartoon. They still look great on the shelf. They carry a lot of childhood memories for me. If you have childhood memories of them, get a set off eBay. It's really cool to have these sitting on the shelf. They're really neat. And the fact that they can go with vehicles well, you can get the packs off and you have them in their kind of standard look from the show without being always in combat. Really just a well thought out figure line, one of Kenner's best.
Yeah, Kenner did a lot of
They did a lot of great stuff, and this is one of their best. Oh, another thing I want to mention was the packaging. Even though you guys haven't seen much of the packaging in the pictures, they all had this purple coloring, and I will always associate that shade and color purple with the real Ghostbusters toy line. And that's something unique to that toy line. I don't think they color and go right to a toy line, but the minute I see that purple, I think Kenner's Ghostbusters. Yeah. Because they all had that purple, and it had really nothing to do with anything. Like, you would think that green, like the Diamond Select with slime, would make the most sense to associate it with it, but that purple, the minute I see that, I'm like, that's the Kenner Fright Features Ghostbuster watch, or that's the packaging for the Ecto-1, or whatever. I always think of that purple color for them.
If I remember right, on the Kenner Aliens, didn't they have a purple type color?
I think it was a purplish color,
was it around that same kind of purple?
It was close to it, yeah. You're talking about the area behind the figure or something like that? Yeah, that was close to that same purple, but the purple card backs of Ghostbusters will always be what I'm thinking of. All right, so I guess that's it on this one. You guys have anything else to say about them?
I have one question.
Yeah.
So I had a set of these.
Yeah.
I had a Super Fright Features Ray.
Yeah.
And then what's the Peter with the gray suit and the yellow harness? Do you remember which one that is? Is that
gray
the Fright
suit
Feature?
And the yellow harness.
I think that's just Fright Feature.
I think it was a yellow harness. I know it was a gray suit, and he pressed down his arm and he was screaming. That's
that's a Fright Feature. Okay. Well, Super Fright Features had this like orangish yellowish suit.
Okay.
He had like maybe a yellow vest and like almost like gray waders.
That's what it was.
Yeah, that's Fright Features, Peter. I would think that the Fright Features is probably my second favorite line because it was the one I had as a kid. And there was really unique features on those. Those were cool. Screaming Heroes was kind of weird, but they had cool accessories. Like Egon had the PKE meter, and Peter had the trap. And so those accessories, like, wow, I got a trap finally, and I finally have a PKE meter. Those were great for the accessories.
Wasn't the Super Fright Features Egon kind of like
looks a lot like
Christmas episode?
Yeah, where he goes in the containment unit. Yeah, that one's. I loved that. I had that Egon. He was awesome. He had this really cool ghost thing that had like this tentacles that came around him. Maybe one day we'll review some of those guys. Maybe. We'll dig those out and review some of those too. But for now, we're doing this. Just the original ones, and then maybe we'll pick up other Kenner ones later on.
About those things with the accessories.
Yeah.
Now I really want them.
You want the Screaming Heroes ones? Yeah, his PKE is really cool. It's yellow and it's got like it's showing a ghost like alert. He had and those they had two weapons. Like he had a regular weapon and his PKE meter and a ghost. And that line you'd wind them up and you'd attach this ghost and they'd do some action and the ghost would make a scream noise.
That's cool.
So that you'd think the hero was screaming and they'd have a screaming face on. And that was that wave had a Janine as well. Fright Features was the first Janine. And then Screaming Heroes, I think she had a telephone. I think she came with a telephone.
Oh, that's cool.
And that one looked more like second Janine from the cartoon too, where it had like the different hairstyle and stuff. Whereas Fright Features looked like the original Janine.
Right.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up on this one. We will review, like I said in the opening sequence, we're going to split up Diamond Select reviews with other Ghostbusters lines while we continue this kind of Ghostbusters thing we've got going right now. And we're going to do some real Ghostbusters episode reviews.
Yeah.
Kind of keep some fresh content going on the channel. Right? All right, we're going to sign off on this one, and we'll see you guys next time.